40 years. That is a long time to measure a life. It's long enough to build a home, raise children who are now dealing with their own complexities, and create a routine that feels as permanent as the bedrock beneath the house. When I looked at the calendar this morning, the date stared back at me with a weight I hadn't anticipated. It was our 40th anniversary. 4 decades of shared meals, shared beds, and increasingly over the last 10 years, shared silences. For years I told myself that the fading of his attention was just a natural progression of aging. I told myself that men simply grow quieter, more withdrawn as they reach their 70s. I made excuses for the forgotten birthdays, the missed anniversaries, and the way he would look past me as if I were a piece of furniture that had simply been misplaced in the living room. I was the wife who kept the household running, the one who handled the insurance, the grocery shopping, and the scheduling of his medical appointments. I was the silent partner in a firm where the CEO had stopped consulting with me entirely. About 6 months ago, something shifted in me. It wasn't a dramatic explosion or a tearful breakdown. It was a quiet, internal snap. We were sitting at the dinner table, and he was scrolling through his phone, completely ignoring the meal I had spent 2 hours preparing. I looked at his profile the way his face was illuminated by the harsh blue light of the screen, and I realized I didn't feel lonely anymore. I felt empty. The realization didn't hurt. It was actually strangely liberating. If I was already living in the house alone, why was I still performing the duties of a wife? I started planning. I didn't tell a soul. I didn't even talk to my friends about it, because I knew they would tell me I was overreacting or that I should try one more therapy session. I didn't want therapy. I wanted my dignity back. I wanted the woman I used to be before I became a ghost in my own marriage. I began to systematically reclaim my autonomy. I opened a private bank account in a neighboring town, far from the branch we shared. I started moving my personal savings, the inheritance from my mother that he had always pushed me to invest in his questionable ventures, into that account. Every time I did a little bit more, the knot of anxiety in my chest loosened. I felt lighter. I felt like I was finally inhaling oxygen after years of breathing stagnant air. When our 40th anniversary approached, I watched him. I wanted to see if, for once, he would remember. I left subtle hints, a newspaper article about a local restaurant he once liked, a mention of how long we'd been married. He didn't blink. He just nodded and asked me where his winter coat was. The day arrived. He left for his golf club in the morning without so much as a happy anniversary. I stood in the kitchen and listened to the garage door close. I didn't cry. I simply took a deep breath, walked over to my laptop, and finalized the transfer of the last of my liquid assets. I had already put a deposit down on a small, charming cottage by the sea, a place I had dreamt of since I was a young girl. The keys were waiting for me. I had an appointment with a real estate agent to list our current home as soon as I walked out the door. The silence in the house, which used to feel heavy, suddenly felt like a blank canvas. But as I packed my final bag, the front door handle rattled. He was home early. He walked in, grumbling about a canceled tea time, his face twisted in annoyance. He didn't even notice the suitcase by the door at first. He walked straight to the refrigerator, grabbed a soda, and then turned around. His eyes landed on the luggage, then on me, then back to the luggage. "Going somewhere?" he asked, his tone flat, as if I were just heading to the grocery store. "I'm leaving, Arthur," I said. My voice was steady. It didn't shake. I didn't feel the need to raise it. He laughed, a dry, dismissive sound. "For how long? A weekend with the girls? You know I need you here for the tax appointments on Monday." "I'm not going for a weekend," I replied, walking into the living room to face him properly. "I'm not coming back. I've sold my interest in this house. The papers are already with the lawyer, and I've moved the last of my funds. You'll have a letter from my attorney by the end of the week." The color drained from his face, replaced by a sudden, frantic confusion. "What are you talking about? You can't just leave. You're my wife." "Who is going to?" He stopped, realizing that the list of things I did for him was the only reason he wanted me around. He wasn't upset about losing a partner. He was upset about losing his assistant. "Who is going to remind you of your appointments?" I finished for him. "You are. You are a grown man, Arthur. It's time you learned how to take care of yourself." "Is this about the anniversary?" He scoffed, trying to regain his position of power. "You're leaving after 40 years because I forgot a date? That's childish. It's not about the date," I said, picking up my coat. "It's about the fact that for 40 years I have been a spectator in my own life. I've realized that I deserve to wake up in a house where my presence is celebrated, not just utilized. I am going to a place where the sound of the ocean is the only thing I have to listen to, and I don't have to apologize for existing." He tried to argue, to cite our history, our joint assets, our shared life, but I didn't engage. I didn't debate. I didn't bring up his past infidelities or his neglect. I simply walked to the door. I left the keys to the house on the console table. When I stepped out into the crisp air, the world felt enormous. I wasn't running away. I was running toward myself. The cottage by the sea is small, but it is mine. Every piece of furniture, every book on the shelf, every moment of the day belongs to me. For the first time in my life, I am not being managed or ignored. I am simply living. I learned that dignity isn't something you fight for. It's something you decide to reclaim the moment you realize you are enough on your own. If this story touched you, please comment and subscribe. I have one question for you. Have you ever reached a point where you realized your own happiness was more important than maintaining a broken image of a relationship? Let me know your answer below.